Ladies and gentlemen, what a day it has been again. By the way, I have to confess this sentence was written a few days ago, but I would easily write it also today. It is never easy to close such an event. There were so many constructive thoughts, in fact, that I'm not even going to attempt to give you a kind of a summary of the day. So let me start with a thank you time. Let me begin by thanking everyone for being here today, for being open to new ideas, and for sharing your views with us. I hope that you were inspired by what you have heard, and that you will take some of the ideas home and also act on them. I would also like to thank all of our speakers for sharing their thoughts with us. They have come from all over the world to join us, and they deserve our appreciation, your appreciation. I would also like to thank Femi and Stephen. They were both moderating our sessions in an excellent way, their own way of moderation. By the way, moderation is an extremely important part of the success of the conference. And I hope that them, like us, are as much enjoying the Forum for the Future of Agriculture, and that we will see them again also the next year. And before I begin with my closing remarks, I would also like to thank the organizers and the staff of European Landowners Organization and Syngenta. They work all year round to make this event happen, and neither you nor me would be here today without their hard work and also without their support. So I would like to thank them. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving a healthy future through healthy farming and healthy food is not an easy challenge. If we want long-term health for ourselves and the planet, we must engage in a complete transformation of all the systems that shape our society and embrace systemic leadership. First, we must profoundly change our economic system. Our decisions are still based on short-term growth measured by GDP and rising stock prices. We cannot rely on old maps to lead us to a new and sustainable future. We have to fix this. Second, we must profoundly change our agricultural and food systems. Right now, far too many of them exist outside the borders of what the natural world can supply and absorb. Our fresh water is receding, our soils are eroding, biodiversity is disappearing, and the resources needed to create inputs, such as fertilizers, are more and more scarce and difficult to extract. And third, we must profoundly change also our own actions and behaviors. We have heard how much food we waste and how easily this could be used to feed the hungry. Wasted food equals ordinary ingredients. That's what we have heard. This is not someone else's problem, it's ours. We here today are not powerless, and the solution lies in our actions. It is up to each of us here today in our personal and professional lives to take action. To me, this is at the core of achieving a healthy future. We must all become leaders. And the bigger your role in this world, the more impact you must make. Stop talking, start acting, and no more excuses, as Massimo Bottura would say. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenges we face have little to do with lack of scientific evidence. We have even the answers on the questions we are not asking, as Luis Fresco nicely put it. We know more than enough about climate change to act. Whole university departments can tell you about the soil. A good farmer can tell you about the clean water. You know, we know. Do not let anyone tell you that it is the lack of money, lack of political power, or lack of resources that is holding us back. Our problem is lack of cooperation, lack of willpower, and lack of trust we can handle the future. Above all else, we need systemic leadership. The complexity and scale of our imminent crisis require us to go above and beyond what we have achieved so far. We must find new ways of governing that connect systemic thinking with practical local solutions that work for people where they are. They must be agile, make use of new technology, and be far more accountable and transparent than any time before. What our leadership must offer above all is the hope of a better and healthier future. We can all come together and say that climate change is a threat, that biodiversity loss will be catastrophic for humanity, and that if we do not change, we will doom the world. All these threats are real, and we must face them. However, we cannot change our course if we do not offer a hopeful vision of a better world. If we are to lead, and so many of us to follow, we must offer an exciting vision of something better. Today, there are not nearly enough politicians, business leaders, farmers, agricultural associations, or government agencies who are willing to do this. Most of us, especially here in the West, prefer to enjoy the comfortable illusion of prosperity by indebting future generations. Make no mistake, young people know this. They no longer trust us to hand them a world that is fair, that contains well-functioning ecosystems, and sustainably produced food. Here in Europe, many of them are for the first time worse off than their parents. We cannot leave them with the systemic crisis that we are in large part responsible for. We have heard yesterday on our conference which we held about the livestock from one farmer, a clear statement that for the first time he knows that he is leaving to his son and daughters the soil which is worse off than the soil which he actually received to take care of. If we are to take back the momentum and bring people with us, we must offer a better, more hopeful future for all, and we must offer a new vision of systemic leadership. Through systemic leadership, with a bold vision, must have three core capabilities. First, it must help people see the larger systems in which they live. This way, we build a shared understanding of complexity. Ignorance creates fear, but if we are honest and open, we can inspire people to act. Second, systemic leaders must allow for complexity and for difficult conversations. The best ideas arise when people, your employees and voters, everyone is well informed. That way, they can help generate solutions and take pride and ownership in the contribution. And third, systemic leader should shift the collective focus from reactive problem solving to co-creating the future. We will not solve our problems if we only try to solve negative outcomes like climate change and soil loss. Those are very serious, but they are only the symptoms. Their causes lie upstream in the much more complicated world of economic and ecological systems. As we have heard, we have to go out of our comfort zones. So, three core capabilities of system leaders, and I dare to say that you have heard those core capabilities of system leaders from the last contribution of first Vice President of the European Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, after the Second World War in Europe, we agreed to share some of our sovereignty to avoid future conflicts. We learned the hard way, and we succeeded. Sometimes we are not proud enough of that fact. In the 21st century, for the first time in human history, we face the emergence of a single, tightly coupled human socio-ecological system of planetary scope. Our individual and collective responsibilities have increased enormously, and our current governing system must be adapted properly to this new reality, to the fact that we are all interconnected and interdependent. We must redefine sovereignty, as well as economic and social power, if we want to address all the challenges we are facing as humanity. It is as much about conflict, war, and peace as it was in the time when a handful of visionary leaders took some brave decisions in Europe only a few decades ago. In this new world, where we rewrite the rules of our economic models, of our farms and environment, there will be enormous shifts in capital, politics, and power. Some people will lose off as the nature of the work and production changes. They must be helped and also compensated. But as a society, we will not just gain a healthy future, but any kind of future at all. We need to create new political, business, and farm spaces to solve our complex problems. We need to explore how we can all spend and invest to align our goals rather than pitching them against each other. There will be some tough compromises. New winners will take the place of some of those on the top now. There will be hard questions about who has power and who makes profit. But this is part of systemic leadership. We either have a courage to think and act differently, or we don't. I do see many hopeful signs. The majority of the world has committed itself to Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. There are real changes being made to farming practices all over the world. We have heard that there are pockets of good practice. Agriculture combined with digital transformation is a major promise. Many politicians at all levels are standing up and creating a real change in their communities. We have heard also the proposal of the International Treaty, or if you want, Intergovernmental Panel on Food and Agriculture. I would absolutely support it. By the way, as a member of the Sustainable Development Goals platform, Mr. Timmermans, I'm the member of that group, which is working on implementation of the SDGs. I have proposed something similar, only going a bit further than this proposal. I have proposed that we would need to have an intergovernmental convention on natural resource management, which would absolutely include the things which we have discussed today. But we are desperately missing that if we want to change economic model and economic system all around the world together. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last two forums, I have asked you to be part of a social contract for the 21st century, a pledge between ourselves and the planet. The time has come for us to amend that contract, to make it less abstract and set out positive vision of the world. If we are to succeed, we must imagine a new, hopeful future that can inspire not just us here in this room, but 500 million Europeans and more than 7 billion global citizens. Let me therefore give you 6 concrete proposals that demonstrate systemic leadership, clauses, if you wish, for our global contract. First, implementing all 17 Sustainable Development Goals should be strategic priority of any government at any level. Their implementation must be supported by outreach and communication, and linked to measurable indicators. Above all, the SDGs should be at the heart of our economic policy decisions. Second, all policies, especially our economic ones, should be open to systematic and frequent adjustment. The synchronicity between economic and environmental policy to responses to global risks should be strengthened. As somebody nicely said during the yesterday's speaker's dinner, actually he repeated after hearing it somewhere, there is no growth and jobs on a dead planet. Third, all levels of governance and all stakeholders, from citizens to presidents, from civil society to CAOs, should be active participants in the systematic changes we need. We must engage potential losers and make sure their transition is as fair as possible. Fourth, the European Union is the best pilot for this new global governance. Logically, European Union should lead the global governance efforts. We have an enormous wealth of good and bad examples and the potential to mobilize vast resources for change. But this will only happen with a clear, hopeful vision and transformative leadership. Fifth, nobody should wait for the leadership of others. You must be the leader at your level of authority, on your farm, in your business, in your government. And finally, stop holding workshops and group photos for the SDGs. Change does not come from putting them as an annex in your annual reports. It is high time we got serious about implementations. As I have said, change is unavoidable, and as humans, we are supposed to be intelligent. It is high time to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, we need a real, profound, and systemic change. A little bit of change will not do the trick. Our food systems cannot just be a little bit more sustainable. Our economic systems should not just be a little bit more equal, and I can continue. If change isn't brought about the will of the people first, then rising temperatures and sea levels, eroding soils, and disappearing biodiversity will make sure it does happen. I do not want to think of the world or persuade you through fear, but we cannot deny its potential reality. Profound changes are not easy. They are difficult, since we are asking people to radically overhaul the food and economic systems that they have invested in and that have contributed so to their wealth and to the wealth of their children. They will only do so on the promise of real hope, and if they are backed by systemic leadership. Transition to a more economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable future, it's an enormous triple opportunity. We should not miss it, and we cannot be afraid of big ideas any longer. I would like to leave you with one final thought. It comes again from the Warning to Humanity, a second notice from over 15,000 scientists. They too believe a better world is possible, and they close their article with this: we require the help of the world community of scientists, natural, social, economic, political. We require the help of the world's business and industrial leaders. We require the help of the world's religious leaders. And we require the help of the world's peoples. We call on all to join us in this task. I could not agree more. I wish you all the best. I wish you a safe journey home, and thank you again for joining us.